Some people live in fear of what they will do while asleep. They are blighted by a strange and mysterious phenomenon, sleepwalking. Sleepwalkers don't have nightmares, they live them, and that can be fatal. With night vision cameras, journey into the violent, disturbed, and shadowy world of the sleepwalker. Strange as it may seem, any one of these people could be asleep. 1 in 50 of us sleepwalk. Some eat, some roam the streets. Others become violent.
Oh my God, what a night.
Thought I killed you.
Oh God, no. But at 2:30 you were going after somebody with an axe.
Leonard and Bonnie Courchaine live in Ontario, Canada.
I met Bonnie in the gym in high school. She was 15, I was 15. I fell in love with her right then and there.
For the first 15 years, everything was fine, and then Leonard developed Parkinson's disease and started having some disruptions in his sleep. The sleep problems were getting worse, and I just thought maybe it was part of the Parkinson's.
Leonard underwent surgery to implant a deep brain stimulator, a therapeutic device that successfully treated his Parkinson's disease.
When he had the deep brain stimulator put in, we kind of hoped that that would cure the sleep disorder as well, but it hasn't worked that way. It actually, to my mind, has made the sleep disorder more bizarre, and it's gotten worse.
Our infrared cameras record what happens in the darkness.
I wake up sometimes when he starts to talk, and if the arms are up, watch out. He punches out, he moves his arms, he moves his legs, blankets go flying.
Leave her alone.
Leonard? Len?
Lovely.
You flew right out of bed is what happened.
No, I'm very scared because I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't got a clue. I get into bed with her and I don't know what I'm going to do. Stay the hell out of your mouth.
Leonard? You hurt your arm? Your eye? Well, I thought you were going to hit me. Leonard on several occasions has said to me, oh boy, you really got a bum model here, or why don't you pack your bags and leave and take the kids and go get somebody else? And he's the man I love, and there's no way. We'll deal with it.
Dealing with it starts with a 5-hour journey south from their home in central Ontario to seek help. The Toronto Western Hospital is home to the largest sleep clinic in Canada. Leonard's physician is Dr. Colin Shapiro.
But if I asked you just to say in your own words what's been happening to you in relation to your sleep.
I guess I lash out at my poor wife here. She's taking the brunt of the blow, from what I understand, because I don't remember anything.
The worst one was when I woke up and he was literally choking me, and I thought, this is how I'm going to die.
Oh dear.
And when I finally got him to wake up, I punched him as hard as I could, and he finally came to and he said, oh my God, he said, I'm so sorry. And then I got out of bed and I sat on the side of the bed trying to collect myself, and he said, well, I didn't do it on purpose. Well, I know he didn't do it on purpose, but it was very real.
So clearly this is a big issue in your married life and in your sense of well-being and your safety. I think for people who don't have sleep disorders, it's sometimes very hard to imagine the chaos that causes in the domestic relationship and the distress for the individual who's never been an aggressive person ever in his life. The right thing for us to do is to arrange for you to have a sleep study, Len, And hopefully after that, I'll be in a position to tell you what exactly is the problem.
If Leonard isn't treated, he could injure Bonnie fatally. For some sleepwalkers, it's already too late. On October 1st, 2001, sleepwalking turned a dream holiday on Catalina Island, California, into the worst of nightmares. That evening, Stephen Reitz drank beer, took drugs, and played cards with his lover, Eva Weinfurtner. But by morning, Stephen had brutally murdered Eva. He told police he recalled having a dream where he was fighting an intruder and awoke to find Eva's battered body on the floor. Reitz claimed to have killed Eva in the midst of a sleepwalking episode. District Attorney Ken Lamb did not agree.
Neighbors heard a knocking. They heard nothing else, but they heard this loud knocking. We know, because of where Eva's body was, that she got out of bed. She had to get up, go to the door, open the door. The question then comes, what happens next? It looks as if she was fleeing. He then pursues her, hits her on the head with a flower pot. Down she goes. She's semi-unconscious. Now he steps around her and he starts kicking her. He starts beating her. He beats her severely. Sometime during this process, he obtains from the table a fork and is stabbing her, not sufficient to harm her, almost as if taunting her. Then he takes a knife, goes to the back of her neck, cuts open the neck, making a large, wide gap that kills her. Mr. Reitz claims that he now comes through. He wakes up and now he's not unconscious anymore. What does he do? He cleans up, changes his clothes, and calmly calls his parents and say, "Oh, I think something bad happened to Eva."
But testimony from one of the world's leading sleep scientists was to lend weight to Reitz's claim.
I felt quite strongly that this was one of the most clear-cut cases of sleepwalking-related violence I had ever come across.
So was Stephen Reitz awake when he killed Eva? Was he criminally culpable? The prosecution said yes. The defense argued no. Sleepwalking was about to go on trial. How can sleep go so horribly wrong? An analysis of sleep itself provides a clue. Every night we experience 3 types of sleep: shallow, dream, and deep sleep. It is in the deep sleep state, when most of the brain remains asleep, that sleepwalking or somnambulism occurs. No. In a sleepwalker's brain, the line between being awake and asleep gets confused. It's more common in children because their brains are still developing. Around 1 in 10 kids sleepwalk, but most grow out of it.
In old situation comedies, there's always this person walking around the room like this, right? And I've never seen a sleepwalker do this, right? And they always say the same thing: do not wake up a sleepwalker. It's dangerous to wake up the sleepwalker. And the truth is that it is dangerous to wake up a sleepwalker. You can easily get hurt. The sleepwalker may injure you because they're trying to get away.
The sleepwalker behaves strangely because he's still in deep sleep, and only part of his brain is awake. His eyes may be open, but he has no idea what he is doing. He is stranded in a sleep borderland where everyday rules of behavior don't apply.
I have had patients whose behavior has included getting in cars and driving. Carpenters who turn on power tools in the middle of the night. Police officers trying to clean their revolvers.
In Melbourne, Australia, 33-year-old Steve Cavicchiolo and his partner Esther have been married for 1 year. But Steve's night antics have become an issue in their relationship.
I had night terrors since I've been about 5 or 6. When I realised it was becoming a bit of a problem was when I was around the teenage years. Generally, I wake up and scream. It's really fight or flight. My heart is racing 1,000 miles an hour.
What? What? Face?
Lately, I've been having ones where I'm fixated with my hands.
And if I were to get a word in it,
It's almost as if it doesn't belong, and I'm looking at it, trying to work out what it's doing there.
There are times when I'll be sitting there giggling to myself about it, going, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that.
Look, a lot of people think it's scary. A lot of people think that it's just scary. I don't know. Frightening.
I wouldn't say that I've lost girlfriends, but I've lost potential girlfriends.
He's lost short-term partners.
I've lost short-term partners that could have gone on to better things, but you know.
The hallway.
Which hallway?
I don't know if I should say it.
Was that
pretty vile?
Oh no, that wasn't in the hallway.
The one where
that
you couldn't find the toilet.
Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing actually. I didn't know where I was. I was completely disoriented, and I really needed to go to the toilet, and so I thought I was there and used the floor. She woke up and she wasn't too happy. Next morning, yeah, she said, don't call me.
And he tells me this story the first night that he stayed.
Well, I had to warn you. I had to tell you that, look, and when me and Esther did start seeing each other, I had to say to her up front that, look, you know, I am a normal person to a degree.
For Esther, it's anything but normal. Our infrared cameras show how frequently Steve stirs during any one night.
It was driving me nuts seeing this every couple of nights. And I'd say to him, call that specialist, make sure you give him a ring. Ring him today. Something's got to be done.
It scares me sometimes. I don't know what's triggering it, so I do want to know exactly what's happening.
So what exactly is happening? The answer can be found inside the brain. Normally, when we enter deep sleep, the thinking brain, the cerebral cortex, switches off. Only those inner regions of the brain, the ones that keep us alive, remain active. But inside a sleepwalker's brain, some parts of the thinking brain accidentally switch back on during deep sleep. This triggers the center for locomotion to wake up. Even though the person is still fast asleep, they move around. If the brain remains stuck in this state, the person may sleepwalk for up to 20 minutes.
Got everything under control? You know what time it is?
No.
Okay.
33-year-old Rebecca Macover and her partner Martin live in California. They've been together for 2 years.
Rebecca and I, we actually met in true,
Silicon Valley, yeah.
Silicon Valley style on the web.
We were both very surprised that we seemed to have so much in common and get along so well, and it took off from there. Someone down there? And my jacket?
But Rebecca's incessant sleeping problems have created a major rift between them.
It was probably the 4th or 5th time that we slept together. I woke up like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was staying at her place, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Sorry my language here. What is this, right? And I was like, what is wrong with her?
Okay, so you got all your stuff?
Already got it.
You're not bringing,
I got it already.
Okay, baby, have a great day.
It was finally about a year ago when I confronted her with it one night, where I was woken up several times, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore.
He was angry.
It didn't take me very long before I could see that something was very different in the area of her sleep patterns. I was, I wouldn't say shocked, but it was like I felt she was possessed when I saw it.
During my sleep, I have noticed several things that I do, like punching, kicking, pulling my knees upward, screaming, waking up in cold sweats, drenched, getting up and wandering around thinking that I'm doing something in my dream. It makes me sad because when I have a dream that's really upsetting, and the first thing I want to do is, cuddle up with him, but the minute I start to fall asleep again, I start twitching and jolting, and it so it gets very tiresome and frustrating. When I wake in the morning, I don't feel rested, and I always feel that I'm needing more sleep. And I'm trying not to nod off while I'm driving. Plain and simple, you're just tired of being tired. And I feel like my relationship with the person I love is at stake. And I worry that if this isn't resolved, that we won't make it.
As a last resort, the couple seek help from the Stanford Sleep Disorders Clinic, the largest sleep clinic in America.
It's causing problems in our relationship. It has caused significant problems in that I'm ruining his ability to get a good night's sleep because I have very fitful episodes, so to speak, of...
Rebecca described a range of behaviors, some fairly dramatic. She says she wakes up and her bed sheets have been changed. She went to sleep with one color bed sheets and woke up with different color bed sheets. That would scare most people. So this repertoire of behaviors occurring the first third of the night without her being able to remember them the next day, that's typical what we expect somebody with sleepwalking. One thing for sure we need to do is we need some objective measurements of how you're sleeping to see what's going on. So we'll have a sleep test. We're going to see when you wake up, what's waking you up, what kind of behaviors you do. And then once we have that baseline information, then we'll have a better position to give you an accurate diagnosis.
To determine the extent of Rebecca's condition, electrodes are attached to her scalp, eyes, nose, chest, and legs for what's called a polysomnographic test.
Rarely do we actually capture sleepwalking in the actual sleep center. What we're looking for in the sleep study is things that may be triggering the sleepwalking.
I was wondering how it would be to sleep with all this, but I suppose I'll get used to it.
Once Rebecca is asleep, technicians watch the results on a computer screen that displays brain waves, eye movement, heart rate, and muscle tone. In the morning, the results are scored and given to Dr. Palaio.
The main thing we found is that your sleep is very twitchy. You're a very twitchy lady. You're kind of moving a lot. You jerk your legs 593 times that night. Normal is 0. You jerk 593 times. You do it 100 times an hour. So you want to just tease all this out. What I think I want to do. We're going to use some medication to help her have less violent behavior in her sleep, and also that she sleeps through her leg jerks more. We're also going to have her meet with a psychologist. The ultimate goal is always the same for everybody who comes here. Fall asleep easily, sleep through the night, wake up refreshed. That's the goal. The question is how do we get there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
July, right?
I guess ultimately I hoped I wouldn't need anything that was like a pill or anything. But at this stage in the game, I'll try just about anything.
With Rebecca and Martin's relationship at stake, the short-term goal is to relieve her symptoms with drugs. But to crack the more complex case of what actually causes sleepwalking, researchers must follow a trail of clues. A new lead has emerged in Zurich, Switzerland. Here, genetics is emerging as the prime suspect. The case depends on the extent to which sleepwalking runs in families. Erwin and Gabby Stockley and their daughters Melissa and Katinka are under scientific investigation.
I have the feeling that sleepwalking is passed down from generation to generation. My father was a sleepwalker. So were my brothers and sister and me also.
Four years ago, Erwin and Gabby discovered that their 8-year-old daughter Melissa also sleepwalks. It's playing havoc with her internal time clock.
During the holidays, she likes to not get up. She sleeps in and then she's well rested. But when she has to get up, I really have to force her.
With 2 sleepwalkers in the family, our night cameras are kept busy.
Hey, daar staat het zo. Daar staat het zo. Dit is zo. Gaat op de stoel die zo. Komt uit de kamer. Stop.
Perhaps the most remarkable feature of all is that Erwin and Melissa display an eerie similarity in their sleepwalking behavior.
So that is a shock that Melissa is also a chronic sleepwalker. So I asked myself, why do I do this to her? That is why we hope that Katinka won't have it, because if she does, I'll have a big problem with myself.
But Erwin's fears may come true. 4-year-old Katinka is at the age children typically start sleepwalking because they stop napping during the day. Sleep physician Dr. Claudio Bassetti has come to ask the family to participate in a new genetic study.
We've been working on the genetics of sleepwalking. We've been able to detect the presence of certain genetic markers in a subgroup of patients with sleepwalking.
The blood test or the gene test? Will it reveal if Katinka will become a sleepwalker?
It can show us whether there is a predisposition. It's obviously not the kind of test that gives 100% certainty, but it will show if she has the same genetic markers as both of you have.
If we find out that Katinka is a sleepwalker through the gene test, at least we could get prepared.
Dr. Bassetti has arranged for the family to provide blood samples for DNA testing. They will have to wait a month to get the results. Back in Toronto, it's time to determine the cause of Leonard's violent sleepwalking.
In his sleep, Leonard's legs would twitch and move, and it was like he was running the 100-yard dash.
I can't keep it going like that. There's no way. Let's face it, it would probably ruin my marriage.
Flex your right leg, please.
This is the overnight sleep study for this patient. I wanted to show you something here.
Right. So he's in REM sleep, it looks like, over here.
Yes.
Wow, bang!
There it is.
That's a pretty violent movement in REM sleep.
The EEG reveals that Leonard's violence occurs not in deep sleep like Rebecca and Steve, but during dream or rapid eye movement sleep.
This is not the only event. A violent movement.
Wow.
And he gets
Leonard is suffering from a rare neurological condition known as REM behavior disorder, or RBD.
It is exciting to capture what is the textbook version of REM behavior disorder and the nice marrying up of the video picture and the EEG, and it's absolutely diagnostic.
So what is REM behavior disorder? Normally, during dream sleep, the body remains very still. The brain's locomotion center sends out movement signals, but they get blocked at a region called the locus ceruleus. This paralyzes the body to prevent us from doing whatever we are dreaming about. But in those with REM behavior disorder, the blocking mechanism fails because the switch on the locus ceruleus is faulty. Movement signals can now travel freely from the brain into the body. The person now moves when they are not supposed to.
It's a small part of the brain that does a huge amount. One of its jobs is to control this muscle activity during REM sleep. And if you didn't have that switch working, then you would get up and act out your dreams.
The diagnosis is that Leonard's night antics are caused by this rare physical malfunction in his brain.
With Leonard, it's so clear, and fortunately there is a treatment that is 90% effective, that it is in fact good news for him.
They finally showed me what was happening. I didn't realize that I could be aggressive like that at all. It scared me right out of my boots. And I didn't really realize it, Let's face it. And it kind of hurt. You know, your wife is laying beside you. You don't really know what the hell's going on. But now I know.
The pill that I'm going to give you is called clonazepam. For REM behavior disorder, it's almost like a magic cure, and there are very few patients who are unsuccessfully treated by that.
Once we had a diagnosis of RBD, like it clarified everything. We know that there's medication that's available, and I think that the statistics of 9 out of 10 are fantastic, and we can just hope that Len fits into that 90 percentile.
Determining the medical reasons behind violent sleepwalking was also central to the Stephen Reitz murder case. The trial was covered by reporter Matt Krasnowski.
It wasn't a mystery that Stephen Reitz killed Ava. That was a known quantity. It was pretty much a given quantity that he was a sleepwalker.
Reitz's family claimed that Stephen had suffered chronic sleepwalking since childhood.
Stephen's father testified that he needed to put in an alarm system, not basically to keep people out, but to keep Stephen from leaving the house. It just showed how severe this problem was and how it haunted them.
The fact that he remembered some dream imagery in which he was fighting against an intruder made me think that there might be some element of, say, REM sleep behavior disorder, in which a person that has this condition sort of acts out their dreams.
But the defense team would have to scientifically prove that Stephen was indeed a sleepwalker to have any hope of an acquittal.
The defense ordered an EEG as well as a sleep study. Mr. Reitz suddenly leapt out of bed and appeared to struggle with someone that wasn't there. All that time, Mr. Reitz was in very deep sleep. I believe that he actually had 3 separate distinct sleep disorders, including sleepwalking, sleep terrors, and REM sleep behavior disorder.
Look at the beating. This isn't just 1 or 2 hits. This is repeated over and over. There wasn't a dispute in the case that he had these episodes. The issue really came down to, well, whether he was under an episode at the time of the murder.
So was Reitz sleepwalking and therefore not in control of his actions? If so, he would have exhibited the robotic behaviour known as automatism.
The one aspect of it that I thought was extraordinary for the defense side of those chain of events was a plastic fork that he supposedly used and raked on her leg. That seems to have no rationale.
But the most significant indication was the final cause of Eva's death, the slashing of her spinal cord.
Stephen was a fisherman by trade. When they landed sharks, he would stab them a series of times at basically the same location to kill them as quickly as possible.
The fact that he had numerous instances of doing the same type of repetitive behavior while he was awake made sense that he would carry on this type of behavior when he was sleepwalking. It would be considered a non-insane automatism.
Reitz had no apparent motive for the killing. So what could have caused such a violent episode?
When you combine a physiologic problem in his brain with use of alcohol and cocaine, you're sort of setting up a scenario in which the person can have a fairly severe episode of sleepwalking.
So could stimulants have been the trigger? Would Dr. Kushida's testimony be enough to convince a jury to acquit Stephen Reitz? This evidence raised the possibility that a person's behaviour prior to bedtime could cause a sleepwalking episode. Could this be the case with Steve Cavicchiolo in Melbourne?
I work late at night. I host karaoke, I host trivia nights, and quite often I don't get home till 2:30, 3 o'clock. And that's when I like to have a beer, have a smoke, eat some chocolate, watch some TV. That is really important to me. It's my lifestyle, it's my life.
Steve's not a very disciplined person. He tries to be, but he's not. He's got bad habits, same as all of us.
So you're going to sleep with these shirts on, love?
I will, yeah.
Steve has decided to take an overnight sleep study to learn if there's anything in his lifestyle that's triggering the sleepwalking.
Okay.
All right, fine. Sleep well.
All right, you too.
In Stephen's case, we're looking for any events that seem to be arousals in deep sleep. And there were like a significant number of those where he could have gone into a sleepwalking episode. Overall, the sort of sleep structure's, reasonable, but there are a lot of arousals with your sleep.
The sleep study confirms Steve's poor sleep hygiene. In other words, too many stimulants before bedtime.
We know that substances like tea and coffee, or anything that has a stimulant like caffeine in it, can hype your arousal up. Cigarettes, they increase. Lots of patients that I've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, if they clean up their sleep hygiene, they can reduce the incidence to perhaps 1 a month. The other thing about treatment would be doing some sort of hypnosis process, which is a form of relaxation, deep relaxation. Letting yourself relax. Hypnosis is very effective to implant in his subconscious, if you like, responses that will help him to go back to sleep quickly. As soon as your feet touch the floor, you'll wake up and return quietly to bed. Just counting now. 3, 2, 1. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Didn't want to really leave.
Well, that's a good sign.
After several more hypnosis sessions combined with better sleep hygiene, Steve hopes to see an improvement.
Dr. Kennedy's pretty adamant that I have to reduce the stimulants. It will be difficult for me. I don't think I'll achieve it, no.
If sleepwalking can be triggered by lifestyle, are we all potential sleepwalkers? An ambitious experiment in Switzerland may provide the answer. Using an imaging technique known as single photon emission computer tomography, or SPECT, scientists have pioneered a way to photograph the brain during a sleepwalking episode.
In order to perform such a study, there are several challenges. First of all, you need a reliable sleepwalker in order to catch him in your sleep lab. Then we apply radioactive substances and inject them into the bloodstream so that they will get to the brain. This means we have to be ready to inject it without waking the patient up.
The crucial moment arrived 60 minutes into sleep.
All of a sudden, when he started to move and the EEG still showed that he was asleep, so I knew this might be the moment, and I had to quickly go in and inject the tracer.
The radioactive tracer allows the active parts of the brain to be highlighted on a computer image.
This was very exciting because I knew I would be maybe the first person ever to get an image done of sleepwalking.
The tracer binds to the brain tissue immediately, creating a snapshot that will last for 6 hours, allowing time for the brain to be imaged.
The next morning we were all looking at the first images and were all astonished.
3 views of the brain were compared with those in normal deep sleep. In the sleepwalker, a small area in the middle of the brain was unusually active.
So what we were able to show is that activity throughout sleepwalking was very intense in this cingulate gyrus, which actually in the evolution of human beings is a very old part of the brain, not being used anymore in an awake person.
So what does this region of the inner brain do? The posterior cingulate gyrus is a part of the brain that processes emotional situations. When we are awake, the more evolved thinking brain overrules this primitive region, so it has little effect on our behavior. But during sleepwalking, when most of the thinking brain remains asleep, this primitive region can take control and cause the locomotion center to become active. Because the cingulate gyrus is part of the emotional center of the brain, it's possible that anxiety may be one of the triggers that lead to sleepwalking.
You could explain that if you are emotional throughout the day, that this could trigger or stimulate this little motor center at night, initiating sleepwalking.
This experiment is the only time in history that the brain has been mapped during sleepwalking, and its significance is profound. If sleepwalking can be triggered by extreme emotions, then under enough stress, any one of us could sleepwalk.
You're not sleepwalking on me? You're awake.
It's been a month since Rebecca started the drug and psychotherapy regime, but her sleep hasn't improved.
Keep it up, Martin. Keep it up.
Perhaps deeper issues are causing Rebecca to sleepwalk.
My sense overall from talking with her was there was multiple things going on with her. She did not seem to be just a clear-cut case of just one thing. When you talk to her in more detail, this whole other issue started to emerge more.
I have to admit that there may be a link between the trauma that I've experienced in the past and the sleep problems I have now. Troy was an amazing scientist, and we had been dating and fell head over heels in love. We'd had an argument, and when he called to try to explain, I didn't want to listen to it. And we ended the phone call abruptly, and the phone went dead. And I had a really bad feeling, and I went over there. And so I went into the office where he was sleeping, and I sat down beside him, and I touched him and realized that he was cold. And then I turned the lights on and saw it. He had shot himself. It was a nightmare, literally a living nightmare, because there's no turning it back. he was dead. And it was all because I had said some really stupid things.
Bad dreams?
This is upsetting.
I wouldn't be that way, sweetie. What I see during night is just a whole different person. And I'm trying to make sense out of it. And that's a huge challenge. I would say that this problem is of a magnitude that if we can't solve it, it's very hard for me to see how we can really continue this relationship.
And because this is apparently this is what's holding him back from us getting married and having children. And he talks about us having kids, and he talks about our future, and his daughter loves me, and I adore her. We're a family unit in every sense of the word, except we can't seem to sleep well together. It just doesn't make sense to me, so.
So there are things to tease out, okay? Because when you guys are together at night, it's the time of tension, so you're not going to get a good night's sleep.
Rebecca's post-traumatic stress seems to be playing a role in her poor sleep. But can this fully explain the sleepwalking? Or is the trigger something more fundamental? A month ago, the Swiss family offered their DNA for a sleepwalking genetic study. Erwin and Gabby want to know if Katinka is likely to become a sleepwalker like her sister Melissa. The testing is part of a unique study underway at the University of Lausanne, researching genetic involvement in sleepwalking. One of the best indicators is a gene named DQB105.
40% of sleepwalkers are DQB105. While in the general population, only 10% are DQB105, which means that if you have this variant, you have almost 4 times more risk of being sleepwalker. So this means that the risk is increased, but this doesn't mean that the gene makes you a sleepwalker.
Today, the Stockley family will learn if they have the genetic marker DQB105.
In Melissa, we expected to find the genetic marker that is typical for sleepwalkers, and we did find it.
As expected, Melissa is positive. The DNA fragment pattern confirms she has the sleepwalking marker.
Now the question is, what about you, Erwin? And we were surprised that you don't have this marker.
I don't have it?
Erwin, the sleepwalker, does not have the same pattern. This is unexpected but not unknown.
The other result is that surprisingly this marker was found positive in you, Gabby.
To everyone's amazement, it's Gabby's genetic pattern that matches her daughter Melissa. She has the sleepwalking marker, not Erwin.
I'm speechless. Yes, I was shocked. I thought Melissa, Katinka and Erwin might have it, but certainly not me. No, not me. Never.
And how about Katinka?
Katinka is also positive. She has the marker.
Now, Katinka is positive. She has the marker. What does it mean? Well, it does not mean that she necessarily will develop sleepwalking. But on the way to develop this specific sleep disorder, she's a little bit further than others.
Sleepwalking is a complex disorder. It is influenced by genes, but also by environment, and probably by interaction of several genes and interactions between genes and environment. So I don't think that one may find a single gene that is 100% associated with sleepwalking.
Good night.
For the Stockleys, nighttime remains full of bizarre behaviour. Erwin still catches imaginary flies. Melissa speaks gibberish. And Katinka displays what might be the first signs of sleepwalking. Science may be closer to understanding the cause of sleepwalking, but how effective are the treatments?
Leonard is doing remarkably better. There's a little bit of acting out, but not near as what he was before, and things are looking up in the household.
Come on down, we'll give you a peanut. It's just super. The pill has been working good, and I love it. I think it's just great.
Medication is usually effective with REM behaviour disorder because it relaxes the body and promotes deeper sleep.
So what I would like to do is actually keep track on how you're doing and see you perhaps once a year. The future in the short and medium term is very positive. The problem is that Parkinson's is a progressive disease, and I can't predict for him what is likely to happen with the REM behavior disorder component of his condition. My experience is that that has not usually become a problem again.
I personally get a better night's sleep because I'm not sleeping with one eye open waiting for him to slug me. Is it good to have my husband back in my bed? I guess so. I love him.
Sure hope so.
Unlike Leonard, whose physical condition is treatable with drugs, Steve's sleep problems are due to lifestyle, so a drug-free option is more appropriate. It's 4 months since Steve started practicing good sleep hygiene, but he's having trouble sticking to the regime.
No, you're not allowed to have one. Sorry. Ultimately, I would hope that there'd be no more night terrors, but the occasional one wouldn't bother me as long as I know that Steve has tried everything that he can to sort it out.
How you going, Jared?
Good, Steve. Yourself?
Yeah, well.
Steve is now ready for his final hypnosis session.
Even though you're in a deep hypnotic trance at the moment, there are certain things that you won't forget.
The hypnosis sessions have been sensational, really good. The frequency of night terrors has reduced dramatically. I've had very little in the last 2 months. I'm sleeping a lot better. I'm not waking up as much. If I do wake up, I pretty much go straight back to sleep.
Basically, I think he'll be able to maintain that low frequency so long as he follows through with the suggestions we've made. It's really up to the patient in the end to take control. And once they become aware of the methodology, which is quite simple, and the best thing is it's drug-free, they can affect a good change in their quality of life. So we haven't cured it, but at least we can control the process fairly well.
I want to do that fernery at some point.
Yeah.
Do you want to get in there with me?
No.
Why not? The journey has been really amazing. To go from 20 years to perhaps a 6-month period where all of a sudden it's improving is quite staggering.
What's that? Everything's good.
Rebecca's sleep problems are proving more difficult to treat because emotional issues are involved. 2 months into her drug and psychotherapy treatment, Rebecca can't understand why her sleeping hasn't improved. But the infrared cameras provide a clue.
I just adore my pets, and I just never realized that they were such a problem. It just didn't dawn on me, I guess. I see them as being somewhat of a comfort to me.
Rebecca is clearly someone who is prone to sleepwalking if aroused in deep sleep. On doctor's orders, all the pets are removed from the bedroom. With the pets banished and Rebecca receiving counselling, the drugs can finally do their job.
We always have this issue of neurology and psychiatry being two different things, but in sleep it merges. So that we have to deal with both the behavioral aspects and the physical aspects in the same person. So we take a comprehensive approach to how somebody's sleeping.
But despite this new prospect of good sleep, Rebecca and Martin's relationship comes to a head.
Martin is very much determined to succeed in getting what he wants, and what he wants is a perfect relationship without sleep problems. He wants a future wife that's going to be able to be Superwoman.
Now where I have a better understanding of what the problem is, I can say with more certainty that the lifestyle that I have here is not a lifestyle that I wanna continue.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but not tonight. You know, I just don't feel like you find somebody you connect with very often. You're lucky when you do, and you don't let it go, and you do whatever you can to keep that and preserve it. Having some trouble sleeping, I didn't think was going to be a deal breaker, but it certainly seems like it is.
In the Reitz murder trial, the defense and prosecution put forward very different scenarios.
He had sleep deprivation, alcohol, also cocaine, and all those might have tipped the cards for him to have an episode of sleepwalking-related violence, particularly since he had a strong history of that in the past.
If the evidence was that she'd been in a bed and smothered with a pillow, I might be able to believe that could happen. In this case, I found no validity to the sleepwalking episode.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Stephen Otto Reitz, guilty of murder in the first degree.
I think the jurors determined that, yeah, he sleepwalks. But beyond a reasonable doubt, they found this to be a willful killing.
Stephen Reitz was sentenced to 26 years jail.
One of the more extraordinary things that Reitz's mother testified to was that only after he was arrested and in Los Angeles County Jail did he get proper medication and diagnosis and care to deal with his sleepwalking.
No sleepwalking murder defense has ever been successful in the USA, but internationally there have been a few acquittals. In 1987, a Toronto man drove 23 kilometers to his mother-in-law's home and stabbed her to death. He was found not guilty by reason of non-insane automatism. His defense lawyer was Marlis Edward.
The criminal law in our traditions, we don't punish people who had no capacity to be aware of what they were doing or to control what they were doing. And generally, such people are seriously ill, mentally ill. The sleepwalker challenges the system because he or she is not typically ill.
The mysterious world of the sleepwalker is only now beginning to be understood by science. Genetics, brain physiology, lifestyle, and emotion all play their part. Now the quest goes deeper still, to understand the brain's extraordinary capacity to be awake and asleep at the same time. Sleep science may help solve one of the greatest mysteries of our time, the strange workings of the human mind.